You're talking about brain surgery.
I'm talking about really cool brain surgery.
Welcome to MsMojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the weirdest and most unexpected conditions Dr. Gregory House has ever encountered. Consider this your spoiler alert.
Gotta be the alpha dog. Can almost smell the pheromones now, huh?
I like them.
Number 10. Breast cancer in a knee. It's a wonderful lie. In this Christmas episode from season 4, a mother suddenly loses the use of her hands and finds herself in Dr. House's care.
What happened? Did the rope break?
No, my hands. I can't move them.
Because of a history of breast cancer in her family, the patient had already had a preventative mastectomy. The team scans her chest for cancer anyway, but finds no evidence of it. Her condition quickly deteriorates, and she loses her sight and her bones begin to harden.
What did you do?
Is this from the drugs?
Most of the drugs should be out of your system by now, and our drugs
I can't see.
After ruling out other options, the team assumes that her disease is fatal until House has an epiphany. It is breast cancer. The tumor just isn't where they expected it to be.
Breast tissue covers extensive portions of the body. As the fetus develops, most of this tissue recedes, remaining only in the fun places.
Thanks to House's insight, this mother and daughter will have many more Christmases together. Number 9. Pulmonary embolism caused by dental work. House's head. In this dramatic 2-part episode, House has to rely on his subconscious instinct rather than his rational mind. After suffering a concussion during a bus accident, his memory is severely impaired, but he's convinced he noticed a symptom in one of the passengers before the crash.
You need to quarantine the whole ER. No one leaves here until their full workup is complete.
At serious risk to his injured brain, he goes to extreme measures to remember what he saw, including undergoing hypnosis and intentionally inducing hallucinations. Eventually, he determines that it's the bus driver who's sick. But with what?
The brain's too fried during a seizure to form memories.
Dumb answer. I wasn't asking you, I was asking me. You've already proven that you're not here.
I'm getting a headache.
Is that a clue?
Again? I'm not here. You're getting a headache.
When House notices that the man had recent dental work, he deduces that an air bubble was injected into his bloodstream through his gums and traveled to his heart.
Dental air drill pushed an air bubble into his gums. Dislodged while he's driving, caused a myoclonic jerk. That's what I must have seen. And it hit his spine, his liver, now his lungs.
He solves the riddle just in time to save the man's life. Number 8. Metal pins in a patient's brain, birthmarks. Unbeknownst to her, Nicole's condition has been affecting her throughout her entire life. She was adopted from China as a baby, and as an adult she returns to find her birth parents. She collapses suddenly in a temple while lifting a statue of Buddha. Back in Jersey, House has to perform the differential remotely after Wilson kidnaps him to force him to attend his father's funeral.
I'm not talking about what caused the cyst, I'm talking about what the cyst caused. Everything.
Cysts are symptoms, not diagnoses.
Unless it's a multiple cyst with connections to other organs, like a steamroller.
The team rules out SARS, cancer, and gallstones before running out of ideas, and Nicole slips into a coma. Then Wilson figures out the missing piece of the puzzle.
She's not supposed to be alive. China introduced the one-child policy in 1979. Say they didn't want a girl. They tried to kill her.
Nicole's biological parents pushed pins into her brain when she was an infant. They've been ruining her life ever since, even causing her alcohol use disorder.
Pins. Push them through the soft fontanelle of an infant. You skewer the brain, and the hair hides the entry wounds. It's the perfect crime.
Number 7. Erdheim-chester disease. All in. If House can solve a case and get one over on Cuddy at the same time, that's a win-win in his book. During a charity poker night at the hospital, a little boy comes into the ER with gastrointestinal symptoms and lack of coordination.
What's wrong?
Your son's brain is losing control of his muscles.
Dr. Cuddy's message said it was just dehydration from the diarrhea.
She's wrong.
House has a hunch that this patient is just like another one from 12 years earlier, whom he failed to diagnose in time. He's been obsessed with this case ever since, believing it was an incredibly rare disease known as erdheim-chester.
House sees that case now and paint peeling and clouds, and now in this poor kid.
Erdheim-chester is an abnormal growth of some of the cells that fight infection.
Cuddy, Wilson and Chase worry that his obsession is affecting his judgment, but as usual, it turns out that House was right all along.
You guessed. You got lucky.
It fit.
It could just as easily have been sarcoma or tuberous sclerosis.
No, not just as easily.
Number 6. Gold poisoning. Clueless. When something seems too good to be true, it usually is. Bob and his wife appear to have the perfect marriage, but the wife is hiding a secret. When Bob is admitted to the hospital with difficulty breathing, House suspects heavy metal toxicity.
Heavy metal toxicity. Explains the lungs, the itching, the swelling in his tongue and throat.
However, all the usual tests rule it out. Despite the wife's apparent devotion, House becomes convinced that she's been poisoning her husband. Eventually, he figures out that she's been mixing an arthritis medication that contains gold into Bob's food, slowly killing him.
Or you've been sprinkling your husband's cereal with gold sodium thiamylate. It's an arthritis remedy. It's rarely used here in the US, but it's still popular in Mexico.
In the dramatic conclusion, House proves the wife's guilt using a chemical that turns gold purple, revealing the evidence all over her fingers. Just as House suspected, their happy marriage was a sham.
Maybe she just got tired of being married. Didn't want to admit to family and friends that the marriage everyone thought was perfect wasn't.
Number 5. Chimerism, Cain and Abel. What's the differential diagnosis for alien abduction? Clancy has visions of extraterrestrials invading his room and experimenting on him. When tests show he has 2 different people's DNA in his body, and Chase finds a piece of metal in his neck, the team starts to take his beliefs a little more seriously.
The lab cannot identify the metal. Said it might not even be terrestrial.
Really?
No, you idiot, it's titanium.
Of course, this is House, not the X-Files. There's a perfectly rational, if incredibly weird, explanation.
Anybody watch any X-Files that inspired an explanation?
There are ways DNA can become mutated.
The metal is a piece of a pin used to repair his broken arm years earlier. As for the strange DNA, while still in the womb, Clancy absorbed his fraternal twin, and some of the foreign cells are still in his body.
Bad doubles partner. Guy just takes up space, gets in the way. Clancy's body thinks that he's gonna put away the easy winners. His brother just keeps swatting balls into the net.
All the team has to do is cut them out, and Clancy is cured. Number 4. Propylene glycol toxicity and alien hand syndrome. Both sides now. Scott's right brain knows something his left brain doesn't. After surgery to correct a seizure disorder, he can no longer control his left hand.
I get to the checkout and there's all these extra items in my cart. Stuff I didn't put there, stuff I hate. My left hand hates me.
It's constantly misbehaving, causing trouble for Scott and his girlfriend. His liver is also failing, and he has a bleeding disorder. While House is distracted by issues with Cuddy, Scott's girlfriend is the one to figure out the answer. She realizes that when Scott's left hand threw a can of deodorant across the room, it was trying to tell them something.
Ever since I've known Scott, I've seen his left hand throw things, but always sort of playfully, thinking it's fun. But when he threw this, it was angry.
It turns out Scott has been poisoning himself by overusing the heavy-duty stuff, and it may have even caused his seizures. Maybe now the two halves of Scott's brain will be able to live together in harmony.
The deodorant has a high proportion of propylene glycol. Same stuff made a kid in Singapore develop a heart condition and, get this, seizures. Our patient may never have needed split brain surgery.
Number 3, rabies. Histories. Victoria is homeless, and her combination of symptoms is so weird, Foreman is convinced she's faking it just to get a bed and a meal. She reveals that she intentionally overdosed on insulin to cause a seizure, but that doesn't explain her paranoia, light sensitivity, or spiking fever.
I'm sorry I lied to you. I took too much insulin on purpose. I really wanted a place to sleep.
When Foreman offers her water, she accuses him of trying to poison her, and she's terrified of the ice bath used to lower her body temperature. When House discovers that she also has numbness in her thigh, the answer becomes clear.
Rabies. There've only been, 10 cases in the last 20 years?
Yeah, that's because non-homeless people, when they get bitten, they get shots.
It's an especially scary diagnosis, since Victoria bit Foreman earlier in the episode. Thanks to vaccines and other medical advances, rabies has become extremely rare in the developed world, but without immediate treatment, it's 100% fatal.
How much time does she have?
A day, maybe 2. And if you don't get your shots in the next, say, 3 hours, I'm going to have to make another affirmative action hire.
Number 2, anthrax and leprosy. Cursed. We don't blame Gabe for thinking he has bad luck. He managed to catch 2 rare conditions at the same time. The team first diagnoses him with anthrax, which he caught while hanging out in an abandoned building.
Anthrax. This house belonged to Old Man Hussein.
Maybe he is cursed.
But despite the treatment, he keeps getting worse. After House gets Gabe's father to admit that he spent time in India and has been lying about it, the team realizes that Gabe also has leprosy.
Leprosy?
Yeah, that's real big in the Jersey suburbs.
It's leprosy. Run a fight stain, it'll be positive. Daddy hung out on the wrong kind of Indian ashram.
The crazy thing is that this isn't the only time House sees someone with leprosy. In season 5, he treats a woman with an unusual form of the disease that makes her look younger. The odds of both of these cases ending up with House must be 1,000,000 to 1.
Actually, this is the flattering one. It's also known as pretty leprosy. It doesn't disfigure, it makes your skin look younger, smoother. Don't let the girls hear. They'll all want to lick your face.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications.
Number 1, erythrozoon infection and Giovannini mirror syndrome. Mirror, mirror. The condition depicted in this episode is a dramatized version of a real syndrome that's only been documented once. House's patient has amnesia so severe that it's wiped out his personality. To compensate, he imitates whoever is in the room with him.
Brain's got no idea who he is, where he is, what he is. So it fills the holes with whatever dirt's lying around. He reads a name tag. He's got a name. Sees a doctor, he's got a job. Sees symptoms, he's got a problem.
Wilson thinks he mirrors the person he perceives to be dominant, and of course, the crew uses this to test their relationships to each other. However, the mirror syndrome is only a symptom, and the patient will die if the team can't find the cause.
It's got to be some kind of infection.
No fever, so it's got to be a tiny infection, hard to find.
You better find it fast. This guy feels another cool breeze, his blood turns to slop and he drops.
Using some clever tricks, House discovers he's a farm equipment salesman who caught an infection from pig dung. This type of bizarre case inspired by real-life events is part of what made House such an engrossing show.
He's a good doctor, that's all. I respect his expertise and I...
She's hot for me, always.
Shut up.
Well, that could have been either of us.
Which wacky diagnosis did you think was the most unbelievable? Let us know in the comments below.
It's happened. Apparently it's happened again. I finally have a case of lupus.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out this other recent clip from MsMojo and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.